Welcome back to Wellness as a Way of Life. I'm so excited for this conversation today with Alenka. She's the founder of Saha Collective. And as the eldest daughter, overachiever, and recovering people pleaser, Alenka has gone through a series of health issues and, after years of looking for answers, found a new version of herself. We'll get into some of those details today. And she saw how finding answers for your health is a challenge for so many and decided to do something about it. With over a decade in building software, Alenka decided to build an online platform that is using custom matchmaking. So think of it as like a dating app for finding a coach. And it helps people vet holistic experts and find if they want in all these different ways. It's so cool. We'll tell Alenka, we'll ask Alenka all about it. And the mission is to give people back control of their health, which is such an important, valuable mission. Increasingly. How are you?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to get into sort of like the back end and your story on this because yeah, so you do have the technical background, but did you envision yourself being a female founder in tech at some point in
No,
your life? No.
absolutely not. It was not like some people are like, I'm going to start a business. It was not on my to-do list ever. I was like, I'll just rise through the ranks in corporate and I'll be satisfied. Yeah. That's
So how did
life.
that work out for you? First plan.
The first plan, not so great. I will say I did really well in my 20s and into my early 30s.
Of course,
In
as the
terms
high
of,
achieving first daughter, I can relate to that.
yeah, right. Like
You do it all the way.
yeah. So someone who has been it happened pretty quickly. I was the youngest person by usually about a decade, the only woman, and I was the one leading the conversation in the boardroom. And you do that, for years, and then you come back home after, traveling for work. You're exhausted because you had to be someone else just to be accepted and just to be heard and not to be taken, at face value, which is you're young. And I could go on into that,
Yeah,
but it's
of
just,
course.
it's exhausting.
Yeah, wearing a mask was exhausting.
Yeah.
Period. And then I think in that case you're doing it to some degree out of fear. Like it's like a non-option, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and in a lot of cases, I didn't feel supported by my bosses unless I, behaved or acted in a certain way.
Towed the corporate line.
The corporate line. Exactly. If you don't kind of fall in line, you're not in line at all. You're off the board. So, yeah.
So fast forward to Saha, and where was it sort of this gradual burn, this idea? And at what point was it that this needed to be like a super cool matchmaking concept versus just a platform to find providers?
Yeah. So I will say so the health journey aspect of it took about 3 years of me digging and trying to find answers. The actual concept came out of all things, a breakup. And a friend of mine, she gave me a journal and she's like, you're going to journal every day, which I had never journaled in my life before. She's like, you're going to write 3 pages. I wrote 2 because, I can't listen to everything someone tells me. And eventually, after a few weeks, this kind of concept came to me. And it was a little terrifying because it was so out of left field. There's no safety net. I have I don't have a trust fund. My family doesn't, they're not entrepreneurs. So this is like a very, very different thing. That happened in July of 2023. And then I spent the rest of the year obsessed with the idea. It wouldn't go away. It was really stuck in my head. And it was a lot of it was the only thing I would talk about with my friends. And kudos to them for putting up with me. But it was it kind of evolved very much into what it is today initially then. But what it started with was more the core values and the pieces that I wasn't willing to, like a vetting committee, a Saha fund for people who can't afford the services. Like those things kind of were in there. And then as I started to actually build, I realized there are some platforms that exist like this, but you still had to know what you were looking for. You still had to really understand.
So let's drill down on that a bit because I think this is the massive problem, right? Like there are so many people looking for answers and they don't get them for a myriad of reasons. But one of them is definitely like they're not talking to the right person, or it takes them like 2 to 10 providers to get to the right person.
Yeah.
And by that time, you've wasted like how much time on things that you could have done to improve the situation.
Yeah.
Or worse, misdiagnoses that have led you down like a non-productive or maybe even potentially really dangerous path.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
your experience? Like you were, I don't know how much you want to share about your personal health issues, but were you just at the wrong providers, or you just couldn't find one that you felt aligned with, or everything?
So this is like the fun thing. So I'll tell you what the end result was, and then I'll back up. So it started with me tearing my ankle to shreds. Like, I mean, fragmented bones, it's like soft tissue gone, bleeding in the bones, tendonitis, like absolute nightmare. And then it wasn't healing. And anyways, at the end of the 2 years of trying everything, my orthopedic surgeon said, "You know your body better than I do. You tell me what you need." And that was the most infuriating thing I had heard, because I had spent 2 years doing the research, and I had to go in and find out, like read PubMed articles and like read the science and figure out how my mental health was related to these ankle injuries, how vitamin deficiencies were related. And like, yes, I did find practitioners along the way, but I had to become my own advocate. And when you're already exhausted from what you're going through, that is the last thing you want to be doing. And I was just like, this is not okay. This is not why providers
And sadly,
exist.
so many people don't take on that role because it is exhausting, or that it doesn't really occur to them that that's really where they're at, and or they just don't have like that much left gas in the tank to fight.
Which I don't blame anyone for, right?
Yeah.
We're just doing our best, and sometimes we just like, let's work with what you have. And I think that's where the matchmaking piece came in, because I was like, people, after going through like all of these providers and spending years and so much money, I was like, I should not have been doing physical therapy to start with, because I was doing physical therapy when I didn't have the makeup in my body of the right vitamins to actually heal the thing. So I was like working off broken pieces. Nobody realized that, right? And so I think there's just like, we're in different places, and if we're not cared for at the place that we're at, it's ineffective care, and then everyone's frustrated. So why can't we take care of that? And that was the first piece of the matchmaking that actually came to me in the shower.
Best ideas, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and like the massive problem, well, one of many with Western medicine, is this highly specialized, compartmentalized, like they're just looking at that specific problem the day that they're seeing it. It's not this holistic view, and not entirely to their detriment. Like they might literally not have the knowledge to treat it that way. So it's great when you've been in like a horrific accident or something and you actually need like that emergency type service. But I feel like all of these chronic or, more nuanced or understanding, like, a heart condition is not just a physical condition. And like, they're just not having these conversations. They're not asking you what you're eating necessarily. Are you drinking? Are you, it's just not solving the problem. So anyway, what can you tell us about how you thought up the sort of algorithm? What were some of your inspirations? Because I think it's absolutely genius.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am learning to accept compliments. It's part of this journey. Part of it was that it was the what you're talking about was like this kind of hyper specialized. Like sometimes we just need relief, but if all we're getting is relief, we're not getting like the core of the solution. And that was a big issue for me. No one was able to give me, oh, you have hypermobility. And I mean, I could dive into this, but like hypermobility is related to ADHD and dopamine deficiency and proprioception, and all of those things, which is mental and physical health, kind of compound together. And if you're not breaking them down at the core, you're going to continue. And this is just me, right? Everybody else has their own unique makeup. And I think it's just really hard to find what works. And so that was the first piece, is like, okay, like if you don't find the right root cause, and often it's back and forth. It's like you find a new root cause, then you go back to like the relief stage or the like, let's try new things, right? Like it's not a straight line. It's a whole lot of squiggly, which is infuriating, but we're doing our best because we're here for, you got to take care of yourself.
But I mean, as is holistic healing, right? Yeah. Like growth, healing, all these things are nonlinear.
They're not linear. And we have to like start to learn to accept it. I think that's really hard, because it means that there's imperfections in us and in systems, and we're trying to work through them. But there's also beauty in learning about yourself, and I think that's just amazing. So yeah, so there's the matchmaking. For me, there was like one big piece where I like met a ton of coaches, but a lot of the clients that they were meeting weren't ready to do the work that the coaches specialized in, and so then it just didn't feel good for either side. And so the one of the pieces is like the healing process as part of the matchmaking. So that's like one of the biggest pieces. That's actually almost at the core of what the algorithm is, because if you're looking for relief and you're given someone who's trying to get you to make changes to your life, that's not a match, right? So that's one
Yeah,
piece
it's
of
kind of
it.
getting like at this self-awareness level of the client in terms of, are they just looking for an immediate solution? Are they aware like how coaching works? And, is this going to be are we going to be on the same page?
Yeah.
And I love that it's this, it's not a yes or no, it's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, and we allow for a lot of gray area because humans aren't black and white. Like if you diagnose a car, that's pretty straightforward, but like a car and a living being are not the same thing, so let's not treat it the same way. Like,
Yeah.
as much as we like to think our cars are sentient beings, so so that's one piece of it. And then I jokingly call this, it's a value sliding scale, but a woo sliding scale, right? Because that's another piece. Like if you're more on the like functional medicine side of things, or like I have someone who does DNA testing, acupuncture, chiropractic, those things are more like conventional
Science.
in the
Your
space that
science.
we're working with, right? In the holistic
Yeah.
space, right? But if you think of like breath work, meditation, energy healing, like those are way on the other side of things. And if you get matched to someone who's way on the other side of things, then it's not also going to feel good, because you're like, I don't believe in this woo woo crap.
Yeah, you're
or
going to
like
be rolling your eyes and not
exactly.
doing the work and not even giving it a chance. Yeah.
And it's a waste of
And
everyone's
let's
time.
face it, there's, especially in coaching, there's a lot of placebo factored in. Like you have to show up, you have to believe that it's worth doing the work in order for it to really be as optimal the results as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and there's a lot of, because coaching's not regulated, we don't get the studies in the same way, but we do get those studies in therapy. And so like that kind of, I wrote a note down in my notebook somewhere here, but it's that relationship between you and your therapist is what actually determines the outcomes. So you like having similar beliefs and you like feeling like that person understands you is what's going to make the outcomes of what you're doing like way more effective. And that goes for any relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a major piece in that. And that's the most of the rest of the matchmaking is based on that. Like how do humans connect with each other? How do we find similarities with each other? And how do we feel that we're being heard and we're being understood? And that's most of the matchmaking. Yes, we do based on like time zone overlap, location, pricing, but like those are simple, straightforward things. The rest of it is truly like, when I get on the phone with this person or meet this person, do I feel like I have to justify why I'm here? Do I feel like they're going to like actually listen to me and pay attention to what I'm saying rather than just try to like give me a prescription and write me off, right? That's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, I love there's also a spectrum of life experiences. So if you are going through divorce and you want emotional support, like, is it important to you that the person has also gone through that? I mean, I think you can make arguments, the pluses and minuses of that, right? But most people, I think, in general, you can speak to something much on a deeper level when you've lived it to some extent. And I think that's another really, is this coaching relationship, it's kind of a click. I've heard it talked about in terms of dating.
Yeah.
You essentially have to get to know the person a little bit. There's this sort of courting period. And at the end of the day, it's, there's either a click or it's like, yeah, no, I don't think this is the solution.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like I think divorce is one piece. I think if we want to talk about being neurodivergent or being a parent, like those things are like, like I have friends who are like, hey, this is going on in my relationship. I'm like, you've been married for 10 years. I haven't. Like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable giving you advice here. Right. And I think that goes the same for almost any relationship, or like with coaches or other, is that like, there are certain things that when you've gone through it, you just have this understanding that you can learn about in a book, but it's not the same.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, I think it gives you a broader perspective and yeah, like a more bird's eye view of all the things that might be factoring into how one's thinking about it. And yeah. So how's it all going? I mean, it's been a while since we've checked in. Where are we
Yeah,
at?
it's true. I was like, oh my gosh, I booked this like months ago. I can't believe that it's been that long since we've talked. Yeah. So it's been a journey, I will say. And one of my friends said it to me, and I've never heard something so true. She said, entrepreneurship is the fastest paced self growth you will ever do in your life. Like, it's just going to put you through the ringer. Like a year ago, not even a year ago, was the first podcast I ever did. And I was a nervous, anxious mess. And now I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm doing a podcast this morning.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just working through a lot of those things and trying to figure out, what is just made me into a different person. Okay, so where are we at? So the matchmaking is live. If you are a provider, you can sign up for free. If you are someone who wants to test it out, it takes about 2 minutes to fill out the form and then get possible matches. We're going to launch it for employers as a benefit they can provide their employees. So instead of having like a just therapy platform or a just like nutritionist or whatever, it's very customized per the individual needs of the employee. I'm really excited about that. So that page has gone live. I was actually just thinking this morning, I'm going to do the press release this week. And the demo is in the works right now. So that will be live in a few weeks. So I'll be able to actually do demos to potential employers so they can like click through and see what it looks like. And the goal is to be live before the end of the year.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And can we just speak a moment to how absolutely beautiful the platform is, and some of your values and thinking on being intentional on what it looks like?
Yeah. So I have always been obsessed with branding, and I could dive into this, but one of the books that I read early on or listened to, because for whatever reason, business books I can't read, they put me to sleep. Textbooks, I blame university.
I'm the same. I have to listen to them.
Yeah. Was Thinking Fast and Slow. Mm-hmm. And there's a version of it that specifically speaks to marketing, which I need to re-listen to. But basically it talks about how our decisions are made on first impressions. We as humans are emotional decision makers, and we make decisions based on first impressions. And for me, I wanted people to come in there and feel comfortable and feel safe and feel calm. And that's like a very intentional type of branding and a very intentional type of look and feel. And I've been working in the software space, which most people think, oh, tech is one thing, but like how you interact with tech, there's a visual layer. And so I've been working with those visual layers for my entire career. And it makes a huge difference, like how they're built. There's a ton of human psychology built into it in terms of like how many steps you'd have to take. And there's a lot of pieces to it. And for me, it's all intertwined, and it's really important to take into consideration. And I may drive my designers a little nuts when I work with them because I'm so detail oriented.
Well, that's good, right? So how are you? How are you doing taking care of you during this journey?
Yeah, it's been ups and downs, I will say. Sometimes I'm better than other times. I did push myself too hard at the end of the year. I will be,
you had a massive deadline.
Yeah. To the point where I cracked. I've already shared this on the internet, but I cracked a tooth from stress. And the funny thing is that was the crown that got put in. Sorry?
That's a thing? I mean, teeth cracking from stress, like
grinding your teeth to the point where you crack them? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Things you didn't want to know. Yeah. That and when I initially went through my burnout in 2021, I had done the same thing, and then I had to have a crown put on it. And so last year,
like grinding your teeth while you're sleeping,
and during the day.
Okay. Yeah. Super stressed.
Super stressed. Yeah. And I internalize my stress. Some people, and I would argue it's healthier, they release it like, during the day, and I tend to like hold it in. I'll blame my Eastern European background on that one. So like if you're around me, you probably wouldn't sense it unless you really get to know me. So like that, I will say, obviously not great to have to go through that again. But this year I took the January basically off. I lived in Los Angeles, so there was, it was a mess for a lot of reasons. Yeah. And then I got back into it, and now my new thing is I'm only focusing on 3 things at once. So like my bookkeeping, taxes, and I had to renew my passport. That was like what I'm focusing on. And then once something gets checked off that list, I add one more thing, versus before I would have a list of like 20 items and I was just overwhelmed and stressed out. So I'm only focusing on 3 things at once. Does that mean I'm not posting on social media every day? Yeah. Is that bad? Probably, but like I need sanity. So
Yeah, I can relate to everything you just said.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. I have another weird one for you if you want on the stress piece,
yeah,
a
please.
symptom. So this happened in 2021 again when I went through that burnout, and I didn't put it together until like a couple months ago. Excessive earwax production can be a
Interesting.
result of high cortisol over a long part, like over time. And because I was wearing earbuds all the time with noise canceling earbuds, it actually shoved it in and blocked my hearing. And I couldn't for like a month, like all of February, basically. I was like couldn't hear, which doesn't help your stress levels.
So, generally speaking, high cortisol kicks up wax production.
It can for some people, not for everybody. I mean, we know it kicks up inflammation in other ways too,
Right.
stomach issues, all sorts of things, but it can. There was a 2020 study that came out specifically for this, and I was like, this is.
And of course, you've like researched this all on your own. This isn't something that a medical professional brought to your
No,
attention.
absolutely not. No, I brought it up to my doctor. I was like, how do I get rid of this? She's like, these drops maybe, but I don't know if they'll work. And like, we'll do a flush. And then I brought it up to my friend who's an acupuncturist. He's like, oh, we'll do this like melting thing. And I got you. Like that was more because he's like, oh, that could make sense. Like in relation to Chinese medicine. I was like, okay. But like, no, a medical professional did not put two and two together on that.
So, do you feel at this point, thanks to the first burnout, you're much more self-aware at when it's like hitting that level and you find solutions faster, or not necessarily?
I slowed down a lot more. Yesterday, I had big plans, Sunday, let's catch up on everything. I slept 2 hours in the morning. I like woke up, walked the dog, had breakfast, and then had a nap, which I would have never done in the past. I really prioritize a lot more than I used to, and I really listen to my body. I've canceled plans, which I never used to do. I don't try to squeeze as much into my day. I stopped drinking alcohol. I almost never drink coffee. I'm very intentional about the people I spend time with and how I feel after I spend time with them. And I am trying to be a lot more careful about my energy, right? Like, when I spend time with people, does it drain me or does it energize me? And those are things I never did before.
That's huge. That's a long list.
Oh, it's longer, but that's the start.
No, but I think it's really important that people hear, because a lot of those things sound relatively simple, right? Like if you just even focused on one, dialing it down in that part of your life, not overcommitting yourself, for example, or, for me, I just take Sundays and as often as possible, all of Saturday too, where it's like, I'm not thinking about my business, or mostly staying off social media. And like we need these mental and physical breaks from whatever, especially when it's intense, which, as you noted, entrepreneurship
is intense.
Not a cakewalk.
No, and I'm working a full-time job while I'm doing this because I don't have a trust fund like I mentioned earlier, or like another way to, and it's hard, but I will say it's been liberating in some ways because like I just block, to your point, like Saturday, Sundays, I'll block more days than that to like work. And when I get to that time, right, let's say tonight, I don't have any plans after my calls. I see how my energy levels are and I'll work based on what I have energy for, right? Because some things are like easier, like the bookkeeping, I was like, okay, I just got to find the receipts and like, it's not brain work. Some things take a lot more and it just depends on where I'm at. But I find by blocking those chunks of time, it allows me to get more done. And then I don't feel like guilty because it's not like I'm telling someone I can't make it or I can't do something. I've already kind of like, no, this is my time to do my thing. And if that means I rest, that's fine.
I love that. Blocking time for yourself to be productive or to rest, and like no guilt. So important.
Yeah.
And sadly, something we have to do strategically these days.
Oh, it's wild. I was looking at my calendar. I'm like, okay, I have something tomorrow, Wednesday. Oh, now I have something Thursday. Dang it. But the problem is I'm going on a trip next week to an HR conference. And so I was like, okay, like how do I get everything done beforehand? But it's at least I had the weekend, I guess. It's not perfect. I will say it's not perfect. And if anyone tells you that they found the perfect balance, they're lying. Like that doesn't exist. But I think balance is just striving for a sense of sanity.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's more like surfing, like it takes a bit of or quite a bit of energy to stay up.
Yeah.
It can be really fun once you feel like in flow, but also it's yeah, there's not like the balance is not going to be up forever. It's
No.
very much you're up and you're down, you're up.
And the highs and the lows are just like, you have to take it in stride and really not let it get you down. I will say that I've noticed is a big difference. A couple years ago, if something would have happened, I would be like a vegetable binging TV for days. And I wouldn't have the emotional regulation to be able to work through it. And I would just waste days because I waste away basically because I couldn't process it. And now it might be like maybe an hour here or there, maybe, but usually like not even. Like I can work through it, which is wild.
Well, I love you say that because at the end of the day, you prioritizing time for yourself, checking in with your energy, rest, days off, you're getting more done
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
before you'd like stop working for several days and
Oh,
and
there's a
like
whole
lose momentum and like everything that goes along with these big pauses and
yeah. There's another book that I'll throw out there called Slow
please.
Productivity. I can't remember who it's by, but he goes through and says like, but gives examples over and over and over again, and how like this illusion of like being busy and just working more hours, it gets better output, and it's simply not true, and it's not how the human brain works, and it doesn't get you those genius moments. It's the slowing down. That's when your brain processes it. There's tons of science behind it. But anyways, yes, slowing down makes a huge difference. And it goes against everything our corporate culture tells us.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. We know that the website is sahacollective.com. Is there a specific way that you want people to interact with you or reach out, or should they just go there first and see what's what, whether they're interested in becoming a provider or curious to play with the matchmaker?
Yeah. I mean, those are, you can do all of those things. You can also email me at info@sahacollective.com. And then I'm the only one running the Instagram, TikToks, and YouTubes out there, which is just saha.collective. There's no one else doing it because we're not
It's
there
all
yet.
you.
Yeah.
All the hats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your story. And I'm so excited for this. I think it's genius and I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate it.